Which of these heavy hitters would you go for within the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak line? Welcome back to Jazz Time. JazzTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, and trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so you can easily choose the best watch for yourself in the comfort of your own home. We offer the lowest prices anywhere online, and if you'd like to know the price, simply click on the links in the description below. We greatly appreciate it if you purchase your next watch from us at JazzTime.com. Today we'll be going over a comparison. It's an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak comparison. One, the Royal Oak in steel, blue ground tapisserie dial with an integrated steel bracelet, reference number 15500ST.00.1220ST.01 versus the Royal Oak Chronograph, also in steel, blue ground tapisserie dial, integrated steel bracelet as well, reference number 26331ST.00.1220ST.01. Alright, so what makes these two heavy hitters? Well, it's the dial. It all comes down to the dial, but I'd like to say that there's a little bit more to it than just that. These two timepieces are among the flagship models for Audemars Piguet within the Royal Oak model line. You know, one sort of quote-unquote regular and the other a chronograph. And I hope to help you make your decision in this video, as we have buying links down below in the description so you can see images on our website and pricing at the lowest you will find on the internet. Alright, now let's get into the comparison. I'll be going over the dials, the cases, the bezels, the movements, the bracelets, and I'll try each of them on and give you my impressions on each of these timepieces. Alright, so when it comes to the Royal Oak on the left, I have a 41mm diameter finger to thumb, a 10.4mm thickness, alright, so quite wafer thin there, with a 50.3mm lug to lug height. Alright, so it does wear a bit bigger than it actually is, but that's certainly not a bad thing. Again, this is all steel, brushed finishing on all major surfaces, polished along the vertices for sort of that glowing look along the edges there, as you can see. Alright, and the bezels continue the octagonal look from the bezel. As you can see, the bezel does have that octagonal look and form. The case also follows that same sort of beveling the corners, alright? So quite an interesting look, and it's sort of the model that effectively helped Audemars Piguet bring them out of the quartz crisis and effectively create this sort of dress watch, a watch made for, presentation, not so much for function. But we'll be getting into the functions in a little bit more, and I think you'll agree that the functions are actually quite superb on, just this regular Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. The case back has screws that hold down the bezel, that sort of rear bezel with that exhibition case back. It has a glare-proof sapphire crystal that actually helps you see the internal movements, the workings of that movement, with a skeletonized rotor so you can see the movement in its full glory. It's absolutely beautiful. All right, and again on the front, sapphire crystal on the front as well, so you can certainly see this dial very, very clearly. It's at most a 50-meter water resistance altogether. Surface swimmable, certainly. You can wash your hands with it, no problem. Just don't really throw it into the ocean or anything like that. All right, and note that the bezel also follows that sort of satin brush finishing, continuing with the case, sort of with that high polish along the outside to give it that very high polish look, with sort of like a floating look. Sort of, you can see that it is elevated directly off of the case there. All right, whereas when we're looking at the chronograph, it has very much the same dimensions. Well, not all the same, pretty similar though. It has a 41mm diameter from finger to thumb, same exact diameter. It's 11mm thick, only 0.6mm thicker than the regular Royal Oak. I wouldn't say there's that much of a difference. Still wafer thin for what you get. All right, when it comes to the lug to lug distance, it has a 51mm height profile, so you do get like close to a millimeter extra when it comes to the wearability of this watch. So certainly this one's for slightly larger wrists if you want to be nitpicky about it, but I don't think you'll really notice all that much. All right, again, all steel, exactly same finishing as you would find on the Royal Oak here. Satin brush finishing along the front as well as the octagonal bezel with high polishing along the sides. You'll also see those vertices or the corners, the edges of the cases will be high polished as well, sort of giving it that modular look, sort of bringing everything together in that aspect, all right? And when it comes to the crystal, you only have one crystal on the front because there's no open case back on this one. It's just a satin brush concentric circle finishing with a sandblasted royal oak logo on the back. You don't get to see what's inside, but mainly what you get is what is on the front. And on the front you have tons of function, tons of use out of this dial, and it's absolutely beautiful, that blue Grand Tapisserie dial, all right? And when we're talking about these dials here, the Grand Tapisserie dial is basically those small raised squares to create, you know, sort of that signature texture with a small guilloche pattern carved in to create tiny concentric rings that you can only really see under a loupe or with a macro camera lens, as you can see here. All right, so you'll also see the effect of them. If the camera's not picking it up, you'll see the effect, which is that sunray patterning, almost like a sunburst sort of look, as you would see on that royal oak. Very easy to see, and it's very distinguishable. It has a mid-tone blue that, you know, gives you those higher tints with very, very little shade. So it's very easy to read, very easy to appreciate the effects of those guilloche patterns. All right, and when we're looking at the overall dial, it's a very, very clean look. It has the index style dial with 18 karat white gold applied indices, complete with luminescent coating. The hands are the royal oak style hands, or, you know, a general baton shape. It integrates very well with the styling of the index hour marks. The minute track is painted directly onto the dial. If I can get it to focus there, it's painted directly onto the dial, sort of falls into the back of the visual hierarchy, and it's, you know, kind of easy to forget about them, but, you know, they're available to you when you need them, which is, in my opinion, perfect design choice. All right, it has a date aperture at the 3 o'clock, a blue background fully recessed with a matching white font for the date. Overall, very well executed dial. It exemplifies the term integrated, all blue look that extends down into the date aperture, and, you know, also only has the same sort of separation with the hour marks and the matching hands, because you still need to tell the time. That's a very good separation in terms of color, at least. A very deep blue with those very bright white gold index markers along with the white gold hands. All right, very easy to read. Now when it comes to the offshore, it's very much the same story, but I think this would be a lot easier to illustrate if I hold them side to side. Now look at the index hour marks. They're a bit thicker perhaps, but definitely shorter on the offshore on the right. Okay, so they're shorter in order to create room for those chronograph dials, those sub dials, as well as the small seconds. Now note that the small seconds on here does keep time just as the center seconds would. There's functionally no difference, but what it does is it takes up more dial space to give it more of a busy look. When you walk in with this, someone sees this with all those dials, they'll know that you definitely mean business. All right. Again, a Grand Tapisserie dial with that sort of guilloche sort of patterning. It's a sunray look, but it's a little bit difficult to see behind all of those sub dials. All right. So, you know, honestly, I'm not going to complain here because there's nothing to complain about. These two are excellent timepieces, and really, it really comes down to you as to, you know, which one really looks the best, which one presents the best of Audemars Piguet's Royal Oak line to you. The overall presentation here is a little bit more crowded, less minimalistic than you would find on the Royal Oak, but you get functionality. You have the chronograph dials here, 30 minutes and 12 hours at the 3 and 9 o'clock positions respectively, with the small seconds hand to really round out those subdials. Now note that these subdials are larger at the 3 and the 9, and the small seconds is actually a bit smaller, but as long as you don't notice that, I think it'll be just fine. Just don't examine it too closely. All right, and the date aperture on this one is actually at the 4:30 or 4:45 position on the dial. It's not too terribly noticeable, but it's there if you need it. Sort of like on the same visual hierarchy level as the minute and seconds track on the Royal Oak. The Royal Oak chronograph has its date aperture at about the same visual hierarchy level. But when you get a closer look at the minute and second track on the chronograph, you'll note that there's smaller little index marks for, to really gauge the tracking correctly for that center mounted chronograph hand. This is not a seconds hand, this is a chronograph hand. All right, as you can see, I can actually stop it here by pressing the top chrono button pusher. Stops rigidly, no weird, stuttering movements there. If I want to reset it, just press the bottom button. To get it started again, press the top button, and there you go. And when I press that bottom button, I also reset the two chronograph subdials. All right, so not too much of an issue there. Okay, and when it comes to the functionality overall, the crown movements here, let me zoom out a bit. Okay, on the Royal Oak, it functions as you would expect. All right, simply unwind the crown to the first position. You can wind the watch there thereafter. You can then pull out to the second position, and you can advance the date by about a quarter turn. So it's very easy to change the date on this watch in particular. All right, you can pull out the crown out to the final position and hex that seconds hand, so you can then actually precisely set the time with the minute hand. Wind it tightly back against the case to ensure that 50 meters of water resistance, and it also starts up that seconds hand. So it's a very, very good functionality in my opinion. Now when it comes to the Royal Oak chronograph, it works very much the same way. You have those chronograph pushers as I just demonstrated, but I also have this winding crown in the center. You can unwind it to the first position. Winding it will then allow you to wind the watch. Very easy. Pull out to the next position, the second position, and you can advance the date. Now it's about a half turn, so the throw for this one is much farther. You probably won't be advancing the date that frequently in general, but if you really need to, keep that in mind. You will have to rotate it a little bit farther. All right, pulling the crown out to the final position. Now note that the seconds hand is still going. There's no hacking seconds here, so you'll have to sort of move the minute hand and just sort of hope that you get it close enough, and then wind it tightly against the case to ensure that same 50-meter water resistance. Now that's sort of a little ding there I'll have to make on the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph. There's no hacking seconds on a watch that sort of boasts, higher precision when it comes to, tracking time, because why would you have a chronograph without the precision? I don't know. That's Audemars Piguet's prerogative there. All right, so what makes all of these work? It's the movements. Now the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak is sort of, I believe, the newer of these two movements, a 4302 in-house made movement, 32 millimeters in diameter or 14 lines. It's 4 hertz, so you have among the highest beats offered by Audemars Piguet. Therefore, it's more precise. 32 joules, 257 internal parts, allowing for the hours, minutes, and center seconds hand, all center mounted with that date complication, as you can see at the 3 o'clock. All right, it has altogether a 70-hour power reserve. That's almost 3 days. So you can actually wear this, take this off on a Friday evening, and it will still keep its time on Monday morning. All right. No need to worry about winding the watch. And it also has that skeletonized winding rotor for fuller movement inspection should you desire it. All right, so you get a whole lot of watch on the inside. On the front, it's all business. And when it comes to the chronograph here, you have all your function on the front. You get nothing through the exhibition. There's no exhibition case back here, but it does have the self-winding caliber 2385, 26.2 millimeters, so it's actually a little bit smaller in size. 11.5 lines with a frequency of 3 hertz, 21,600 vibrations per hour, so slightly less precise, but I don't think you'll really notice. The rotator, or the rotor on the inside, is fully an 18-karat block of gold, so it will be, rotating a little bit more than you would expect. It is unidirectional, so it only wears winds about half as much as you would expect from a bidirectional rotor, but it would still keep its power reserve when you wear it on the wrist. 37 joules as well, 304 total parts. It gives you 40 hours of power reserve, so just under 2 days. Well, 8 hours shy of 2 days, so you can't really put this down, but honestly, looking at it and having it on your wrist, I think you'll have a hard time putting this down. You'll have a hard time reaching that 40-hour power reserve, you know, letting it run out, so to speak. All right, and when it comes to the bracelets, they're both exactly the same. The Royal Oak style bracelets, satin brush finishing along the top with a high polish sort of corner flank look that really gives it that glowing look, with those high polish intermediate portions among the links and, you know, sort of on the edges of those intermediate links as well. Also gives them sort of that glowing look, sort of as if they're modular, a bit gestalt in that aspect, you know, where the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. All right, and when it comes to the clasp, same exact concept. All right, we have the double deployment button system. So to open it, you just press both buttons in and it pops open nice and easy. Okay, and while we're here, I'll try on the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, give you some of my thoughts as to how it feels on the wrist. All right, now this one, 41 millimeters in diameter. It has I believe, a smaller height when compared to the Royal Oak Chronograph. It has a 50.3 millimeter lug to lug, so it's a little bit smaller. I'm not getting a whole ton of bracelet here, but it will still slide very nicely under any suit cuff. The way that the lugs sort of flare out a little bit gives it room to breathe. So this can actually still be worn in a sport type of setting. All right. Overall, the weight very, very light in comparison to the Royal Oak Chronograph, because you're not really introducing that much complication here. It's a little bit thinner at 10.4 millimeters thick, so that's less steel to have to deal with. All right. And when it comes to the overall feel, the weight distribution, it's closer to the case because the bracelet doesn't act as that much of a counterweight to the case, but you know, it still does its job. All right, so it's not too bad. I can definitely tell that it's on my wrist, but it's an excellent and clean presentation, especially with that blue dial. Very hard to come by and only a boutique exclusive, but you can only get this from the boutiques, or you can get it from us at Jazz Time. We can get these quite easily for you here. Links in the description below. All right, now trying on the Royal Oak Chronograph, same exact button deployment system. All right, we can try this on one side and then the other. Note that it's not fully symmetrical, as the clasp does require you to put the AP logo side on second in order for it to actually properly close. All right, again, I'm getting the same sort of general feel because the lugs do flare out a little bit more, actually, because it is a higher lug to lug distance here at 51 millimeters. So definitely more space here, but you know, that lends itself to being more of a sporty watch, as you know, it is a chronograph. So more breathability under the case, breathability throughout the bracelet. When it comes to the weight distribution, it's a little bit heavier in the case because, well, obviously a little bit more thickness, more steel, and more complication, more stuff to deal with, especially when you're looking at it on, you know, the front. There has to be something that's using all of these dials here, and you know, very, very telling that this is a timepiece for, you know, business as well. This is sort of a jack of all trades sort of model from Audemars Piguet. All right. Not quite as dressy as the Royal Oak, but I would still consider this, you know, within a dressy sort of environment. And this one will double very well as a sports watch with the chronograph functions there. When it comes to the weight distribution, more toward the case. Again, less counterweight in the bracelet than you would, you know, sort of expect, but it's a little bit heavier than that of the Royal Oak. So keep that in mind. If you don't want to be, you know, absolutely exhausted wearing a watch, you may want to consider the Royal Oak. And when it comes to considerations, well, my current thoughts on these watches, well, which one would I choose? Honestly, I have a hard time picking between these because I do love a watch that is highly functional, because more functions makes it more desirable. And certainly with those two blue dials, which one gives you more bang for your buck? Well, I think it would depend more on your personal situation, but for me, I think I would rather go with the Royal Oak here. And why? It has that cleaner presentation. I have sort of personally, a sort of like a design background, so I prefer having a lot of white space, a lot of breathing room for everything that I need. And I only really need to have that excellent presentation, and when it comes to presentation, the Royal Oak certainly has it. That Grande Tapisserie dial with the guilloche pattern, really makes it stand out as I move it in the light box, right? But when it comes to the chronograph, I don't want to upset anyone here, but the chronograph has your functions all there. If you want to be prepared for everything, this is the timepiece to go for. It does have your date still, a little bit harder to read, but it's really not that far behind the Royal Oak, right? These are two flagship models. The blue dials are extremely hard to come by out in the wild. We can get them for you here at Jazz Time, no problem. And typically you would have to go to a boutique and be placed on a waiting list. It would take, I don't know how many years, and by then they may have discontinued them, all right? Well, if you visit our site, jazztime.com, we can get these for you, no problem at all. Very little time to wait, all right? So I would love to hear your thoughts on these two watches, because these are two of the heaviest hitters within the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak line, and I'd like to know what you think. Which one would you choose and why? Let us know down in the comments below. And be sure to leave a like, as it really helps the channel out. Be sure to subscribe so you'll know when we go live with another video. And as always, if you'd like to purchase either of these watches, or even both of them, you want to be ready for everything, buy both of these watches through us at jazztime.com. Links in the description below.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to Model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in Jazz Time, plus the brand, model, and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.